Welcome to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. Got a great episode coming up tonight. Charles Anthony, otherwise known as Chuck Banks or Charles Banks, goes by a couple different names, but great guy, and really happy to have him on. He's a psychic medium, author, radio host, does a bunch of stuff. We were just talking stones here a few minutes ago. Of course, with me as always is Vanessa Hogel, my co-host, and then down in the chat room, our lovely chat shenanigator, Shauna. So let me tell you a little bit about Chuck. Go ahead and read his bio off real quick. So, Charles Anthony from Iowa is a psychic medium, author, educator, father of 3, and husband of 21 years. I copied that and pasted it twice. Okay. He's host of the E30 Death the Show, At the End of the Day, The Classic Medium, and The Butt Hurt Show. And founder, I know, I love that. And founder of Beyond the Light Radio Network, previously Point of Ascension. His book series, Death, the Final Frontier, shares his most personal, terrifying, dark encounters that have not only plagued his own life for years, but have traumatized his family as well. These destructive, long-time attachments eventually led to Charles finding freedom of the light for both himself and his family. The new book, The Midwest Paranormal Road Trip, which we're featuring tonight, takes readers through the Midwest's most haunted destination. Charles is also the author of Around the Dinner Table, Religion and Politics, The Butt Hurt Saga. Charles currently resides in southeastern Iowa with his family. He has a BA in History, an MA in Secondary Education, MA in Education Administration, and is currently working on his PhD. Chuck, great to have you aboard.
Hey, I'm super excited to get on. I always catch your shows, but most of the time it's late. Which I love the interaction, by the way. That we see in your chat room. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
It's always awesome to have that great group.
We really do. We're blessed.
Hey, you know what I forgot to do, Vanessa?
Forget it.
You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to do it.
What? You did not.
I did too. Welcome, Periscope. I have it all set up and boom. So we'll do it this way. And so, hello, Periscope. I know it. I talked about what, like 5 seconds before we went live. Hello, Periscope. I'm of course Mike. We've got Vanessa and Charles there. So there, now you can see it. That's the camera, but there. Okay, awesome. So I have my work laptop actually set up over here to give them the view. So yes, hello down there, Periscope. Thank you for tuning in.
Chuck, I do have to say this, that Jen B said, Chuck, you forgot to tell them about your BA in smartass.
Well, I'm getting my PhD in smartass. Come on.
Smartassery is important to us here at Edge of the Rabbit Hole.
It is, and it's much better than dumbassity.
Yes.
Very much. Very much
we've seen plenty of in the marbled.
Reach. Oh, my stars. I do have to ask you, though, aside from the level, the high-ranking smartassery man that you are, what is your PhD going to be in?
It's going to be in educational leadership and philosophy. It's through Grand Canyon University. I've actually been out to the Phoenix, Arizona region, South Sedona. It's an amazing area. But eventually I'll either be a superintendent of schools or I will focus more in doing studies for different industrial management or schools in that type of setting.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's fantastic.
Bless you. I mean, that's especially the idea of possibly being a superintendent. That's huge and an extreme responsibility. There's a lot that entails, and I would absolutely love to have a PhD in philosophy. I'm a Catholic philosopher. I am. I philosophize all day long.
This is true. But you know what? You guys had a fascinating discussion going on just before the show. Because Charles has some geodes and all kinds of things about in there. And so you guys are having a fantastic conversation that I would just love for you guys to pick right up. Because I know a lot of our viewers are really into stones. And Vanessa, you had some suggestions as far as what to do with his piece of jet. You had some sage and lavender going on in there. So
absolutely. All of our listeners, watchers, viewers, buddies, our Cheshire cats know that I'm into witchy shit because we have a T-shirt to prove it.
We have that T-shirt, yes.
And we are blessed that to have Chuck on here because not only is he an author and a husband and a father and well versed in all levels of education and philosophy, but he is also a stone man, and not a stoned man, a stone man. He lives. Did you say on the area where there's just a ton of geodes in Iowa? Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. If you look at the area in which I live, we're actually the furthest point south in Iowa, and I'm about in the middle of Lee County. So it's literally, I can be in Missouri in 10 minutes, and I can be in Illinois in about 12 minutes. So, I mean, we're right down in the bottoms there.
Wow. Okay, I've driven through that area. I just drove through that area.
Seriously?
Yes, I sure did. Matter of fact, it's right along that area, going to Moundsville, West Virginia. And but what I found so fascinating by your location is, like I said, the amount of geodes that you have, and you have some pretty impressive specimens right there. Show everybody. Now this,
yeah, that's nice.
Uncut. That is uncut. That is actually, I mean, just a fabulous specimen right there. This young one right here, is that the one you said that if you cut that one in half, it would have a little bit more of the hollow center?
It's the smaller one here. But there's a lot of those around, yeah.
Exactly. And we talked to the possibility of having the amethyst and the citrine there and the jet that he has. But what a lot of people don't know is when you have geodes like that, he says he's got some pretty dang big ones there. They're 3-4 feet tall.
Yeah.
And, talking about getting those cut straight down the center, because not only does it increase the magical properties because you have more of the belly of the beast showing, but it increases the financial aspect of it as well. Yeah. So if anyone's looking for a really good geode, now you know who to contact.
The place.
Now you know who to contact. What did you say happened, Chuck, when you brought those into your home?
Well, what's interesting is I used to have a lot of activity, and as a psychic medium, much like yourself, you tend to draw in a lot of and for whatever reason, I end up with these nasty cases. Within the state of Iowa, I work with several different paranormal groups that I can discuss later, but they always show up. And see, with these, what I've noticed is it's a lot calmer. It's a better atmosphere. Whereas prior to having these stones in my basement, it was a little crazy at times.
I think people fail to realize the actual power of those stones. You're talking about something that has been in the soil for who knows how many tens of thousands of years, doing nothing but soaking up the local nutrients and energies of that area. And that's such a grounding thing. It's just like when we say, go out earthing. Walk on the grass with your bare feet and draw those energies. You basically did that times 10 and just brought it into your home. And that's why when you do get more, I really want people to contact you, maybe buy some from you.
Yeah, and I will tell you this, as you're talking about the stones, it's becoming a lot more electric, in this area. So yes, it's all alive.
Yeah, oh, most definitely. The other thing that Mike was talking about that we had an interesting conversation going is I told you to when you panned the camera, and if you would do that real quick for everybody so they can see, you can see here where Chuck has his candles, his sage sitting right there in the center with his geodes. And I asked him, I said, is that sage there? And he says, yeah. And I said, add lavender and tobacco to it. Because what I saw, and what Chuck didn't know, was I saw an Indian standing behind him.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I thought it was Pawnee. And I'm going to describe to you, Chuck, what I saw, and you tell me if you have had contact with this particular man. Okay? He is not a tall man. I would actually put him between 5'7" and 5'8", of lean build, maybe 150 pounds. He has his hair cut in that straight going down. You just backed up on me, Chuck. What you thinking? He has hair going straight down the center right here, and then pulled back in braids going this way. And he has one black stripe down his nose, 2 red stripes going across his cheeks, and 3 white dots going over his chin. And the dress that he has, and I don't mean dress, but what he is wearing is woven leather going across. It almost looks like a breastplate, but it's little bitty strips of leather and I can only see him from the waist up because he's standing right in front of your Chicago Cubs little ball field back there. Have you seen him?
I have, and I have to ask you this question. What color are his eyes?
They're amber.
Okay, amber. Okay. And in actuality, this is one of my spirit guides, and he goes by the for whatever reason. I have a great friend of mine that I'll call Hawk because she's also a school teacher. So we don't discuss a lot of some of these ideologies with other people because I have to keep my day job and my night job separate. But anyway, we call him Old Yellow Eyes. Now, could he be Lakota? Well, you're on the right track. Whereas it could be Pawnee because the Pawnee associated with the Lakota, in that South Dakota, Iowa, and that northwestern Iowa region. So yeah, you're spot on. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. He's a nice fella.
Yeah.
But he wants tobacco and lavender in that stage dish.
Okay.
There you go.
I got some chew.
Well, hey, we already have some comments and questions coming from the chat. First, it was a little off topic, but people are wondering where's Ghosty. Ghosty, well, see, Ghosty went for a ride this past weekend in Shauna's handbag, actually in the front pocket as we were investigating. And so Ghosty is back in Illinois. So, but I do have a picture of him here. Actually, I have like a whole box of them out in the back of my car. But I was kind of running around doing a bunch of things. So there's Ghosty. You can get him at hauntedroadmedia.com. But also,
sweatshirt.
Yes, and the sweatshirts. But yeah, the hoodies and all that. But Chuck, there was a question from Joanne Rubino, wondering if the stones, if the geodes were mined from a cave or where they actually came from.
Basically, in this area, we have two fairly large rivers. The Des Moines River is probably, well, it's not super huge if you're in the East Coast or whatever, but the Mississippi River and the Des Moines River, it's where this Des Moines River actually races down. It's a river basin within 10 miles before it goes into the Mississippi. And in this area, if you want to talk about the Neolithic age, so you're talking about 10 to 15,000 years ago, there was a giant glacier that actually reached as far south here, and there was actually an ocean within this region prior to that. So what this is a lot of compact action, but it's not out of a cave. It's actually it actually washes down the river, the Des Moines River into the Mississippi area. So it is rather interesting that it wouldn't be found in a cave. But there are caves around, just not significant in these parts.
Okay.
Does that explain the shells that have been found on your property?
Yeah.
Okay. It's weird because they're more hollowed out. They're more like the clam shells than like the little swirly ones. I don't know my shells. But they look more like clam shells to me than they do the little swirly ones that you put up to your ear. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and in this area, there's a high concentration of oh my goodness gracious, limestone. So it's basically it's further north, Mike, than the Ozarks, but along that Mississippi River, kind of this limestone kind of goes all the way down and progresses down into the south.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing about Shauna's area, because she's there. Basically across the river from St. Louis, Missouri type area, a little bit further to the north though. So basically she has, the town that she's from, Campsville, it's on that peninsula that has the Mississippi River on one side, Illinois River on the other, and basically it's limestone bluffs right in between. Yep. So it's kind of crazy paranormal activity. I always remark to her, the town that you're from is like every little place is haunted. It's just a little town, but like everything has something going on, except her parents' place. But so yeah, it's always interesting with the water and the limestone like that.
Now, Vanessa, we'll have to talk sometime, because if you look at a map of every darker case that I've had to associate with, and you look at where I've lived in the past, where I've experienced some of these things, it's interesting that there's about a half of a witch's circle. I won't even call it a pentagram. but a half of a witch's circle that's made itself present. So that tells me that I got a few years left before I have to go because I haven't finished my job here. But yeah, that's interesting as well. That might be another day.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm excited about it because, like I said, I mean, I would say it's a rarity, but it's not, but it's a little bit rare for me to see someone just, boom, right behind one of our guests. And he's right there.
Now, I do want to take you to the portal.
Oh, we're going on a trip. Here we go. Okay. This is a first for Edge of the Rabbit Hole. I don't think we've had a guest go walking off with their camera before.
That's awesome.
Field trip.
Okay. Now, just so you know, but before you talk here, or associate with it, this door here has a tendency. Now, if you notice, it will not open. Okay. This door is always open. Okay. This is a little bit darker. It's a mess right now, but this is where the angels actually come in and see me.
Oh wow.
Okay.
But not in that other room, because that other room, if you walk into that other room and you look to the right, down in the corner against the back wall, is very, very, very dark. It's almost like tar.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's like it would stick to you if you stepped on it.
Yes.
Yeah, Jen is saying down the rabbit hole with Chuck.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. That's great.
But I will tell you, I haven't shared this very often, but there was one point when it was absolutely going apeshit as I was starting to develop. I had no idea that I was even going to open up. And I was actually clearing the house. I was using holy water, and I was throwing it in that room, Vanessa, and you could hear like...
Oh, interesting.
I'm really not surprised. But the thing is, I don't know what you actually have underneath your house, but it starts underneath that room. It starts underneath that room. And it's weird because normally if I'm going to see something like that, I'm going to see something almost like a spider or a web and how it branches out, but yours doesn't do that. It's very bizarre. Yours, yes, but as it goes down, then as it goes deeper and deeper and deeper, it goes into like this, almost like a screw situation, and it goes down. It's like a well, but not. Like once you finally got down to the bottom of it, I would actually call it the abyss.
And just to kind of add to that, and sorry, Mike, I know you want to
no,
talk.
Go for it.
But anyway, underneath this section of the Midwest, there's actually there's an ancient lake underground, and I'm going to guess that it's there's pull to that. You know what I'm saying?
Most definitely, yeah. Yeah, Mike, you better butt in because we could go all night.
No, it's just some of the comments are interesting. Like Jen K is saying that she had to turn her head when he went by that room. Candy Orton was saying that it was very dark in there, seen it many times. So yeah, so the comments coming back are along the same vein. So very interesting, definitely.
Now, do you see the key that I have?
The one that you see?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe at the end of the show I can discuss that. But a good friend of mine, and I think he's friends with you too, Mike, George Turner, gave me that key when I was going through some of those horror dates. But
interesting.
Now, aside from the holy water, what else have you done to block off that room?
I've actually and some people would say I was crazy, but Jen B probably says I am. But anyway, what I've done is what I've noticed that's really come through is my ability to be able to keep others, like my family, my animals, out of harm's way, and to basically put that angelic white light, yellow, gold, and white light around it, to keep it in there. I've saged, the holy water thing. I've even went as far as to bless the entire house through 3 different types of forms of spirituality. So I've worked pretty hard to seal that baby off. But
Yeah, speaking of Jen B, she does have a question for you. She'd like to know if you have city water or well on your property.
I actually have city water, that we utilize. It's not the greatest of all water because we get those letters in the mail like once every 3 months. Oh, you have too much blah, blah, blah in your water. But no, I don't have a well.
At least they're checking your water. At least they're checking it. This is going to sound very bizarre, but have you ever considered attaching magnets to the outside of that door?
I have not, but a great friend of mine, Candy, she also does a show on our network, has mentioned that, so that might be pretty interesting to add that, yeah.
If you do that, if you can get the strips of magnets, and you can actually put those, not covering the entire door, but put them in 3 rows of 3, top, middle, and bottom, that will help neutralize some of the activity, and it won't be able to try to come out of there. It will almost form a barrier. So I would, it's worth a try.
For sure.
What's worse that can happen? It don't work.
There's been a hell of a lot of things that I've tried over the years that haven't worked. So and here's one more thing to add to that. What's interesting is we've always lived in Southern Iowa, but I've lived in 3 different locations where I've experienced similar aspects that have taken place. One was less than 6 city blocks from the Fort Madison State Penitentiary. One of them was in Centerville, Iowa, which is roughly in the middle of Iowa on the southern end, and then there's this one. But again, if you do the markings, it's interesting what happens on a map.
That's interesting. We do have a couple more questions from the chat. From Fran Molino, do the animals react to the particular crystals that you bring home?
That was I have one dog. She's a 9-year-old yellow lab. Big, fat, and overweight like I am. She really interacts strangely at times, but with since I've had the stones, she has seemed a little bit, more at ease versus prior to. You're looking back, because sometimes she'll be staring off into space at times, especially when I'm dealing with when I'm dealing with a healing session or something like that for other folks, to help them out. So yeah, it definitely affected. Now our other we had a bearded dragon that died, okay, and a couple of other animals, but nothing significant.
Okay. Another one this is from Dawn. Was your property part of a larger piece of property, possibly at one time, that could be researched for deaths, murders, other types of things like that?
They're actually, looking at the deeds and things like that. When you look at the Donaldson area, nothing in the newspapers or anything like that associated with deaths or anything like that. Okay. Now, I do live smack dab in the middle of the Sac and the Fox Native American land. You look in this area, the Mormons, when they actually started to trek further westward, on the other side of Illinois, they had some differing things that took place, but other than that, I really couldn't tell you as far as any deaths associated within the region. Now, it was owned prior to the addition with the local lumber company. So other than that, really hasn't been much discovered in the way of that. And I am a researcher, so I work pretty hard.
There are mines close to your house, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Northwest of your house. And there were at least 3 men who died.
Interesting that you would say 3 men, because in our old town of Centerville, we actually lived above a shaft where 3 men died.
Yeah. Is that northwest of where you are now?
It's actually, well, you know what? It is kind of. It's kind of in this angle. So, across the state. So it kind of is, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, 3 of them. So one was actually considerably younger than the other 2. So probably really shouldn't have been there.
And what's scary that you would bring that up, the other night I'm driving through West Grove back home, from seeing my mom, and I saw a coal miner with the lights, walking by the car, and I don't remember my wife or kids seeing that. So I can't deny that it was real, and I can't deny that it wasn't. Okay, it's one of those situations.
Yeah.
Hey, we have a question from Candy Orton. Do you know if there are any ley lines going through your house?
There are tons of ley lines within the whole region. Now, I'm not sure whether or not I have any directly below this house, but if you look at the amount of the structure and makeup of the land, I'm sure that it's very, very possible. Mm-hmm. If you go straight north, you get to one of the hotbeds, the Edinburgh Manor, which is totally under a ley line. And I'm sure that there's ley lines all the way from here south, all the way into Shana's area and Coyote Chris Sutton's lair down there in the middle of Missouri into Illinois.
Oh yeah. I imagine there's quite a few. So, but it's a great question, and I know one goes right through Campbellsville where Shauna grew up at. So it's one of those things that do a little bit more research on it, and it's crazy how you just start discovering things like that all over. What I did want to ask you about was your book. And so, Midwest Paranormal Road Trip. So, let me bring that up. So, where did I put it?
Hey, Mike, let's see you bumped Periscope.
I did. I moved it back.
Okay.
So, there's your book. And this is one of several that you have. So, where are we road tripping to in this book? Tell us a little bit about it.
And appreciate that. I actually, there's some sites in Missouri and Iowa within this book. I really don't venture out of Missouri and Iowa within the book, but I have a lot of the Old Faithfuls, the trusty Old Faithfuls. When you look at Iowa, what it's known for, the Villisca Axe Murder House, the Farrar Schoolhouse, the Edinburgh Manor, stuff like that, the Malvern Manor, with Josh Hurd. Great guy as well. But I also have some newer attractions or less known, like Dumas, Missouri, and that's a place that, Mike, I'm going to get you and Shana, up here and get involved with that, because it's relatively new as far as an investigative spot. But during my digging, within Dumas, what I've discovered is that there was actually a train accident in I want to say the early 1900s where 23 individuals were killed.
Oh wow!
And there's this going around where folks, they used to go down there and neck and booze up on Friday and Saturday nights. It's one of those spots. But what was interesting is this tale of a headless woman that haunts the railroad tracks. Okay, and it's within there. The first time that I visited Dumas, it was crazy because I'm actually taking pictures of the entire area, and on the floor of this tunnel, Mike, is a picture of a pentagram, and it says hell is all within us, and there's burnt offerings within inside the pentagram.
Oh wow!
So there's been demonic worship there as well, and then within a half a mile, there's an old abandoned cemetery with broken tombstones, and I could narrow it down. The oldest tombstone that I found out there was 1818. So this is an interesting place. Yeah. But and a lot of it's kind of a personal reflection. How I write. Is I like to write like I talk. So we act like we're around the dinner table.
Sure.
And there I go and I write. And that's what a lot of people say. And it's interesting. I've had a lot of people say that this is the best book that I've ever written. Now, we hear that a lot, but I've heard that from so many people. And a couple of my investigator buddies, they're like, Chuck, I couldn't put that SOB down. Thank you for wasting my 4.5 hours on a Sunday. You know what I'm saying?
That's the best compliment you can get.
Yep.
For sure.
Robert White is asking if your book is available on Kindle.
It is available on Kindle, and what I'll do is, if Candy's out there, she can, if she wouldn't mind finding it and posting that link, in the chat, it would be great.
I should have the link down in the description. If you're not, because all the links, and it actually doesn't appear that it's down there. Let me go grab those real quick, because I thought I copied all that in there. So that's great. You'll be able to find it on Kindle.
Mike, while you're doing that, I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask a question. Where did you go that it was this? Because I haven't read your books yet. I do apologize. My life has just been crazy right now. Okay, but where did you go that had that really small cemetery? It was. I want to say most of the graves were between 1840 and 1920, 1930.
Okay.
That one makes me sick. And there's if you walk into that cemetery and you go not all the way to the back, but about 3/4 to the back, and it's on the right hand side, there's a particular area right there where the energy almost feels like it's like in Mineral Springs, that swirly thing. Almost like a cyclone when you step into it, and it just feels like everything's just kind of racing around you. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Well, I thought she said Mike. So.
That was earlier. We're good now.
Okay.
At the Edinburgh Manor, there's actually an older cemetery that's it's kind of a little bit north. It's across the road, and it's just to the northwest of the Edinburgh Manor. And within that region, that's kind of where you're saying where this is located. And what's interesting about Edinburgh Manor that I didn't know prior to my last trip or prior to writing this book was that it was actually a poor farm prior to this Edinburgh Manor becoming kind of this home for the the lost, or kind of I won't call them insane because they're not all insane, but home for the lost or whatever. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's interesting that I have to give a shout out to Nick and Sue Pashusta because I actually did another overnight investigation up there. And down in the boiler room of this particular spot in Edinburgh, it said my old buddy was back. It said the name plain as day on an SB 11, I think is what they had. And immediately I thought, shit.
I'm a little worried now because I'm supposed to go to Edinburgh Manor in May.
I'm going to be there in May too. So
no way.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not a speaker at this one, but I'm supposed to be going. Financial gods permit. But but yeah, that freaks me out now because I can't not see it, and I didn't know about that. So now I'm like, shit, I gotta go. Oh wow, I don't like it.
It's a great site. I have a picture within a mirror that I took, and it's interesting. In this picture, when you zoom in, you see a face, and what's scary is my daughter doesn't like me talking about it, but my daughter actually drew a picture like 5-6 years ago, and it's the same damn face. So
damn. Oh, me and her need to hook up. That's what I do is automatic drawing. The thing is, though, is at this particular cemetery there's a little baby, and I think that's the hardest thing that I'm having to deal with right now.
Yes. Okay. Here's.
Oh, weird.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
Now here's a couple of different pictures that she drew.
Oh wow.
That one has a lot of pain attached to it.
Yes. Here's a picture of the entity I dealt with in my basement.
Oh wow.
That's real similar to something that was in West Virginia.
Okay.
Not in West Virginia, in Virginia, Mechanicsville.
Mm-hmm. So, I'm a pack rat, so I keep all that stuff.
No, it's good.
No, that's good. That's good.
That
Definitely.
is good. That's creepy though. Not that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Shit.
Now I will throw this out there, Mike. I normally charge $15 for a signed copy. I'll charge 10, but they'll have to pay shipping and handling for any of your listeners.
Fair enough. So where can they, do they just contact you directly for a signed copy?
Sure. Contact me, Charles Anthony, or they can shoot me a text. I can send them PayPal information.
Okay.
My number is 319-670-9061. So.
Awesome. And I did add the link to the description. I had all your bio and everything in there. I just didn't have the links for some reason. But I've added that now in there. So if you want the Kindle off of Amazon, like Robert White was asking for that. He's in Australia. So
I tell you, there's nothing like a good book, though.
I I know. There's something about actually holding it. I get it.
Very much so. Very much
As
so.
a writer and a reader, of course, of course.
Well,
I definitely appreciate it.
Mike, you and I have to do a Christmas trade.
We can do that, definitely. Just let me know which one you'd like.
Sure.
All right.
Well, I want to read it too, but I'll have to order another one of mine to send to you for us to trade. Because I'm out.
There you go. And Shauna's saying that in order to find Chuck, that she has him tagged on her wall, and I do have him tagged on my wall. So easy way to find him on Facebook.
Mike, I'm going to ask him something that we actually rarely ask our guests.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, and because I'm honestly curious, considering he's went to some pretty interesting places. Where have you not gone that you would love to go and investigate, but you know that there is something there that is going to give you a whole lot of trouble?
Oh man, that is a great question. I'm actually going to get the chance to go to Hinsdale in June. At the end of June, I'm going to do a kind of an event with Coyote Chris Sutton and Dan Class. So I'm excited about that. I would say probably man, that's interesting. For whatever reason, the Malvern Manor's in my book, okay? But I have not visited the Malvern Manor yet. I want to, but something always tells me that, you know what I mean, it's going to be one of those intense situations. And as a medium, you know as well as I do, when you get in those intense situations, you probably should listen to your gut. That's probably one. And every time that I'm going to go, like I'm invited on an event or whatever, something happens. The last time my mom was put in the hospital.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I say that. Now, there's a lot of people that say the Amityville Horror House is not real. I think that there's a lot to that house that could be. That's one that I would have trouble going to, but I'm going to definitely drive by.
Yeah, that's one that, when it was in my formative years that I always wanted to get to. I do think that there's things going on there, but the whole story that was Hollywoodized, I don't think that particular story is real, but I think there are definitely things that go on there that are real.
See, for
I don't
me,
know how you get that, what kind of feeling you guys get.
Oh yeah, for me it's the LaLaurie Mansion in New Orleans.
Yes.
This was one of the first times, the last time I went to New Orleans, I was actually able to walk on the same side of the street.
Yeah.
I want to go to Auschwitz, but I have trouble standing on the same side of the street as the LaLaurie Mansion. And I think
that
it's
would
because
probably make Auschwitz very difficult.
Well, for me, with the LaLaurie Mansion, there's a connection, and I think that's why I would have such difficulty with it. But yeah, that's just something I've always wanted to ask people. I really don't, because people always say, "Well, where do you want to go to next?" or "Where would you never go again?" They never ask about the one that holds both those factors.
I would say a spot, the Ram Inn in England is one of those spots that I feel like, that I have a tie to. But, I would have a very difficult time getting there. But I'm infatuated with that place. It's almost like, it was a piece of me even before I found it. It's one of those things.
I've remote viewed for it.
Yeah.
I've remote viewed for it for a team. For Southern Ghost Society. It was really interesting. I've been lucky enough to where I was able to go to one of those places that I had a past life connection to, and that was in the Hellfire Caves in England.
Yes.
And I have to agree with you. There is something very bizarre and very disconcerting about being in a place that you've been in before, but not as the person you are today.
Yes.
And when you're somebody like we are and you do the things that we do, it can really throw you for a loop.
Yeah, my trip to England back in 2001. I think it was shortly. It was in November, December 2001. When I was there, I was downtown where Jack the Ripper struck and all that stuff. So, I was in that region, and I felt really drawn to that area, and not in a good way. You know what I'm saying? I was close to the Tower of London, and I'm thinking the whole time, boy, this is cool, but I want to get the hell out of here.
Exactly. No, I totally get what you're saying. And it's weird because when you do things like what we do, you have to admit certain things about yourself. And for Auschwitz, I would have to say that I think that my empathy would actually hold me in good stead. It'd be painful, but it would help me help those that are still there. The more you mention brings out in me, and I recognize the darker side of myself, and I think that that's what I would have the most trouble with, and I mean that's really tough to admit.
Yeah.
But when you do the things that we do, you've got to admit those things, because if you don't, you're not well prepared. You're not able to handle that shit when it comes at you. Now, you've had some dark instances. What is the one that if it never happened again, you couldn't be a happier man?
Okay, I won't go into all the logistics of this situation, but this actually took place last April.
Okay.
I was at an event. I had been dealing with a young gal. She was 13, 14 years of age. She had been dealing with a super one of the darkest attachments that I've ever dealt with. But what's interesting is that this attachment she had was something that that I had dealt with in my life as well. And we actually, she came down. She kind of fidgeted back and forth. This entity kept saying, that this guy's full of crap. He's not going to be able to do anything. Blah blah blah. But she came anyway. And I took this entity out of her body and consumed it. Now, totally stupid. If I wouldn't have had a great friend of mine who's able to pull these things out, it could have ruined me forever. And it's something that I will never do again, obviously. But I felt so I felt so sorry and so deeply remorseful for this girl that I thought that if we did this, taking this entity out of her or sever that attachment, I thought I was going to kill her, and that's why I did it. As a father, I've done that many times, and that's probably the scariest, darkest situation, because what I was shown there is one of the most insanely dark visions and experiences that I can even possibly imagine. I have not put pen to paper in this situation, but in those mere minutes, I would say 4 to 5 minutes, it felt like that I was in hell. It felt like that I was seeing the abyss. It felt like I couldn't breathe. And my mannerism and things like that definitely shifted. But what's interesting with that certain situation is about 6 months prior to, we were actually at my wife's cousin's wedding, and I messaged a friend of mine, Will Conkle, that he's kind of in that the For Our Schoolhouse. He does all these events with him. And I told Will, I said, hey, you need to be damn careful, because you're going to be dealing with a case, right? You're going on a case. And he had no idea. And then 20 minutes later, Moth, Ministers of the Haunted, actually contacted Will about going to this house, and it was that girl. Yeah, so it's interesting. Now, I hate being vindicated, in situations like that, because it was so damn dark. And it took it out of me. It probably took 3 to 4 months for me to get over that situation, and that's definitely something that I could live without. You know what I mean? Saying it again.
Not that I'm glad that happened to you, but it's nice to know that it's not just a me thing or just a couple of people I know thing. I've been there. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I hope that someday you do put pen to paper and explain that story, because not only, A, will it exhaust you of the still lingering feelings that you have from that, but B, it will educate others. and it'll help them understand. Like with my last book, I took the Hollywood out, I took the pretty out, and you need to take the pretty out. People need to understand exactly how nasty this can get. So I hope someday on your own time, on your own timeline, that you do that. I think you'll be very pleased if you do.
I just have to say this. You are one sexy dude.
Wow, okay.
Yes!
That was completely random.
Wow, wow.
Mike,
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
You know how I work.
That is awesome.
Wow.
Oh, my stars.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate that. Okay, well, you got the whole chat room cracking up.
That is best.
Well, while you two were talking and chatting about all of that, there was actually a lot of discussion about Amityville within the chat, and there was a question from Dawn that I wanted to throw your way. She was asking about. Let me see if I can scroll back up here enough. Okay, about tulpas, and she remembered the term later on. But does anybody believe that if enough people focus on something like believing the Amityville house is haunted, it can create that type of paranormal activity? So could a tulpa be created at Amityville all these years later, with people believing that it's haunted, even though it wasn't originally, if that's what you believe?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'm asking you since you're the guest.
Okay, all right. I think that whether we like to admit it or not, we all have some sort of abilities, and then even as paranormal investigators, even those that have limited abilities, is if you manifest something, it's going to show up, and it's going to show up in a big, bad, hairy way. Especially if what you're expecting is super dark, then it's going to show up. I can remember after kind of going through the Amityville stage, even when I was a kid, and this nasty nun that was disgustingly looking and scary as hell showed up because I manifested it. So right. Yeah, I think folks have to be careful when they manifest those things. Now, did the Lutzes, did George have an attachment prior to going to the home, and it really had nothing to do with the home? That's a possibility. It's not out of the realm, a possibility when you look at those things.
Right. I mean, it's hard to know because there's so many different stories that have gone on around it. Whether or not they fabricated it, there's a lawyer out there that says they created the story over a bottle of wine, but they were doing stuff spiritually and with spiritualism before getting into the home. So yeah, did they bring something in? All very good questions. And there was a question I was about to ask you, it totally slipped my mind. What was it, Vanessa?
You know what? I don't know. I will tell you this. You discussed the Amityville house, and I will say this, is that there are instances in people's lives when they have particular activities going on inside the home that those who are outside the home are not privy to. For many reasons. One, legalities. The other is it would be frowned upon for many reasons. And so things are kept confined within walls. And in my opinion, and from what I've researched on it and from what I've read of it from the actual location, just remotely, is that when you hold such dark secrets, you draw even darker secrets into you.
Yes.
And I don't believe...
Excuse me.
You
can repeat that. I'm sorry. I was coughing. Go ahead.
Are you okay? Okay.
Oh, I'm fine. That's why I've been drinking water, because I've had like a little bit of something going on that I haven't been able to get rid of. A little tickle in my throat.
Oh, bummer. But no, I don't believe that there was possession involved. There definitely was activity. Definitely was activity. And I would stay there. I would stay at that house, no questions asked. But
I remember
there
what I
was
was going to ask.
There was personal things going on within that family, within the family unit.
Yeah.
Well, there was a lot of domestic abuse and things like that going on. Yeah.
Not domestic. There was people were way too familiar in that family.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's that going on too.
Drew a lot of darkness.
I mean, the father was mixed up in the mob, and there was all that going on, drugs. It was a big mess. The thing I was going to ask, since we were talking about tulpas, Slender Man. Do you believe people are truly manifesting that?
I think Slender Man, as far as a tulpa, as far as manifesting, it's not out of the realm of possibilities. I mean, I have some pictures of shadow men that I've actually taken in this home that kind of come within that reference, to that look. Is it Slender Man, or is this an ancient, darker, even further back than the Judaistic Christian component of things? Is it something even darker? But I would probably call it more of a shapeshifter, Mike. Them basically manifesting, this type of energy that could shapeshift into whatever they think they're going to see.
Well, yeah, and that's a theory that is out there, and I just kind of threw it out there because we were talking about tulpas. That very well documented that Slender Man is just a internet creation. However, there's a theory that's out there that something, seeing how this has become very popular, has decided to take on that persona and manifest itself, shape-shifting into the Slender Man entity.
For sure. I mean, it's I would say it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's like when they came up with it. What was it last year? It was a new way to do Ouija boards for kids.
Oh, where they spun the pencil, Charlie, something with Charlie.
Yeah. And it's interesting that my dad used to call me Charlie. So, but there's no relation to that, folks. Okay, I didn't create the game. So anyway.
Now, you know that a Ouija board, especially the pink ones, are the perfect gift for 8-year-old little girls. And they do have them in baby blue for little boys. Real quick, just going back on something, I want to make sure, just because of a comment in the comments here on the chat, when we're speaking of the Amityville Horror House, we're talking about the DeFeos, not the Lutz.
Yeah, we're talking about when I said the father, I was talking about Ronnie DeFeo Sr., not Butch DeFeo, which would be Ronnie DeFeo Jr.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that the distinction was there, because I think it was perceived that we were talking about the Lutzes when in fact it was the DeFeos.
Right. So, yeah, to me, the real horror of Amityville are the murders.
Exactly, absolutely. And what happened prior to those murders is where people were talking about possession and this, that, and the other, and that's what we were discussing, was not necessarily possession, more like what was the sequence of that family drawing that darkness in. Right. So, a little bit different.
And Joanne is clarifying for us that the name of the game was Charlie Charlie.
There you go. There you go. I'm not going to play it.
I mean, I see how it's, and I've seen it done a few times. I see how it's a physics trick. You're not really calling, the spirit of trouble. I have no trouble
getting spirits to shut up. I'm not going to do anything like that that's going to kick that door open wider. I'm just saying.
Right.
So, hey, y'all, excuse me for just a minute. I got to grab a cigarette.
Sure.
Of course, she couldn't wait 5 minutes till the end of the show. It's a nice Christmas tree, Vanessa.
Thank you. I tried to be good and only have 2. And I'm going to fuck that all up right now.
You want to know how many I have set up right now?
Use the F word.
0.
That was the first time you used the F word in the entire show.
I'm becoming so...
Yeah, what's up with that?
I know, right? Oh, we can't have that. That's not gonna work. Did y'all put up trees yet?
Yep. Our tree was put up the day it was the day after Thanksgiving when we got home. So
yeah, no, that's usually about the time that I would set up, like the week after or the weekend after Thanksgiving or another week after that. I haven't done it yet this year. My sister had hers up on like November 15th. I'm like, why? It's like no.
Before you go off the air, I got to give you a tour. I'm not going to show you the mess. Okay.
Oh, come on.
Because I want Vanessa to experience.
All right.
Okay. All right. Now I have several pictures from that region where faces come on in.
Yeah. If you go out your back doors and you go to the left, out through those your French doors.
Oh yeah.
Then you go to the left and go about 50 feet.
Oh yeah.
To the left. That is where I feel an extremely big pull of energy. Extremely big pull of energy.
Interesting that you would say that because I take pictures of that tree all the time and there's thousands of faces.
I am on my game tonight, and I haven't even slept.
Nice job, Vanessa.
There's
hey! I'm a ball. I'm going to shake.
Candy Orton is saying stay away from the fence.
I hear you. Okay. Down this hallway is where I got my Shadow Man, Dark Man, Soul Taker. Yeah.
Okay.
Not the door that you're standing in front of, not the one in front of it, but the one right after that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, hopefully my bathroom's not a mess, but I've been scratched and bitten in that shower.
In the shower.
Yes.
Was the bite on the back of your left arm?
No, the bite was actually on my neck.
Okay.
Well, no. The bite was on my arm, but it was like right.
Your left arm?
Yeah, it's on my left arm.
It's fucked up.
Yeah. Here's now. Don't anybody get any crazy ideas. This is where I sleep, but I always see stuff pretty much all over in this general direction. So.
Okay.
Do you have a mirror on that closet door?
I don't, but I will. As long as my daughter's not in there. Kat, are you in there? Can I show you your mirror?
Is it on the door?
You're paving your daughter's room for the mirror. Wow.
Won't let me.
This is going down the rabbit hole, folks.
Yeah. They just keep saying that mirror needs to be covered at night.
Yeah.
Daytime's kind of okay, but the mirror needs to be covered at night.
Yeah. And then there's Bella.
Hi, Bella. She don't care.
I think she got to go outside. So. Anyway, sorry to take you on that tangent.
No, it's all good.
Great. This is great. We don't get to do this very often. You have a lovely home, by the way.
Thank you.
Very welcome. Yeah, it's beautiful. Oh, I see your tree in the door.
Oh, yeah. Yep, there it is.
I like it. That was fun.
Yeah, that's a little different.
Fun.
We haven't ever taken a house tour twice now.
That's awesome. Though. I like it. But yeah, cover that mirror at night.
Okay.
Also, when you you're not going to have as much activity downstairs now because of your stones. But upstairs, when you have an increase in activity, if you could play some classical music, not anything with words in it. Okay, play classical music, and that will neutralize the actual activity that you're having.
Nice.
So that's a big thing. And somebody in that house needs to be playing some ocean sounds. They need not ocean. It needs to be running water. Running water, almost like a stream or a brook.
Huh?
Youngest daughter?
Yes.
Yeah, you need to have that in her room. It needs to be a sound of running water. It can be a waterfall, anything like that, because she hears voices at night, and that will help drown them out, and she won't have to deal with that because she's the more sensitive of all of your children.
Yes, my oldest daughter doesn't live with us. She's in the United States Army, with her husband, and she still experiences and can see those things, but not nearly like her.
Yeah, very, very, very sensitive to it. Very sensitive to it.
Sorry, I gotta let the dog in.
Oh, you're fine. That's fine, but it is, we're about an hour into the show, so we need to start getting it wrapped up. This has really been an interesting show, so we've hit a lot of different topics, things that I didn't quite expect, and places I didn't know we would go. So it's been great. Chuck, I really do thank you for coming on out today. So let everybody again know where they can find you, your book, your books, your radio shows, all of that, how they can find you and tune in.
For sure. If you and if Candy will type in this as well, it'd be great.
Yes, please,
Candy. You can find all of our shows at www.beyondthelightradionetwork.com. We have a plethora of shows. You can follow us. And if you want to check out BTLN, the group friends page, be sure that you check that out on Facebook. Follow me, Charles Anthony, on Facebook. Mm-hmm. I do follow back. Sometimes I may ask you a question because I've been getting a lot of crazy freaks out there.
Right.
But anyway, that's just the way it is. So follow me there. Beyond the Light Radio Network on Twitter. Just get a hold of me, Charles Anthony, on Facebook. If you'd like a signed copy, I can get you that book. And then if you go to Amazon, type in the Midwest Paranormal Road Trip, Charles Anthony, and I show up, and then my other 4 books will show up on there as well. I really appreciate both of you having me on. I know, Mike, you and I have had some detailed conversations on my show, and it's a lot of fun when I can change sides.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, again, great having you on. So everybody, check out his plethora of books and shows. Lots of great stuff, and like you just witnessed, very, very informative. So, all right, well, let's get to some shout-outs real quick. We are coming back here in a few minutes after this show for Inside the Upside Down, where we will be talking about haunted animals. So let's do some shout-outs, and don't go anywhere. All right, so I'm going to pop up the chat here real quick. A lot of people in the chat today, so Shauna, my love, the chat shenanigator, thank you for taking care of everybody. Angela Hogan, thank you for joining tonight. Vanessa is in there as well. I know Candy Orton was down in there. Robert White from Australia, thank you very much. Phoenix Feather 1031, thanks for joining us tonight. Yep, there's Candy. Joanne Rubino, thanks for your questions tonight. Bethany Warner, appreciate that as always. Dawn, Spooky Spectacular, thank you again. Creepy Karma, thanks for joining us again. Andrew Cubbage, of course. Andrew, I know it was said earlier and I didn't do it during the show, but positive energy for Andrew when he goes for his MRI. Beat 3 Airspace, thanks for joining us tonight. Zippy Davis, as always, he's right on top of it. Tom McNicholas, thanks for joining us tonight, one of our great Patreon patrons, and he's down there in Periscope as well. So let me, hey everybody down there in Periscope, how you doing? Thank you for joining us. Lens White is down there too, and so hitting the little hearts to her heart's content. That's awesome. So appreciate all the hearts and all that down in Periscope. Tom and Linz and whoever else is down there in Periscope tonight. Linz is probably out here in the chat as well. Jen K, thanks for joining us again tonight. I think I may have said Jen B, but if I didn't, there you go. Who else do we have in here this evening? Scrolling back through. Mark Dunavant, thanks for joining us. Sherry Ann Carroll, thank you. Jody Brewer, thanks for joining us again. Who else do we have? So, Joe Chandler, thanks for joining us again. And trying to see if there's a lot of people that were in tonight. So, did I say Sean Gilmore?
No.
Okay, Sean Gilmore in the house. Ectovision Paranormal. All right, I'm gonna. I think I already said Fran. Greg Rinkin. Okay, there we go. And I'm gonna scroll back down real quick. If I missed you, I apologize. We try to get as many as we can. Try to get all the shout outs in there. A lot of people were in tonight, which is awesome. And I think that's going to be... Carrie Parrish. Yeah, Carrie Parrish and Donna Gorton, of course. How did I miss them? So, all right. That's going to be it. Again, Chuck, thank you very much for joining us. And everybody, check out his stuff. Start following him. A lot of great adventures, information, and the like. So, Vanessa, and of course, thanks to you and Shauna.
Thank you, Chad.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll see everybody else here in a little bit on Inside the Upside Down. So, I'm Mike. See you in a little bit.